So, as you may or may not be aware, I'm not very techy. What was the first computer you owned?
The first one that I actually used was a Commodore 64 when I was about 6 years old. It was my dad's, so I can't say that I owned it, but I was able to use it, allowed to use it. So when I was about actually 6 or 7 years old, my parents bought me some computer books for kids. They were in BASIC, and so what you had to do is you had to type over these programs. I mean, I could barely read and write at the age of 6, right? And so I literally spent hours copy pasting basic code from a book into the computer, and then when I would run the program, assuming I did the copy pasting right, there would be very little game that I could play. And so that's how I learned basic programming, even before I could write and read. My dad was a doctor, a medical doctor. He asked me to automate or to make, basically make his patient management system a computer program instead of using paper. And one night he came home from work and he gave me a Clipper. I don't know if anyone remembers Clipper, but it was a database and programming language, not unlike DBase. And so he gave me this stack of books, like a compiler book and all these books in English, which is really hard. And I remember spending my entire summer vacation trying to help him build this program so he can use a computer to manage his patients. And I would read these books and along with a dictionary, English to Dutch, to try and figure out how this all worked. And so increasingly more I got into computers. And then when I finished high school when I was 17, I enrolled in the computer science program at the local university. I listen to music whenever I can. When I wake up, one of the first things I do is turn on the music. Or when I get home from work, one of the first things I do is turn on music. I listen to everything and I like a variety. Part of me is still stuck sort of in the late 90s music. Whether it's Pearl Jam or these kinds of bands. I read a lot. I love reading. I love writing as well. Primarily read business books, actually.
What's on your nightstand now that you're reading before you go to sleep?
Yeah, sure. I was actually reading a book on Stoicism, which told the history of Stoicism and then tries to apply it to modern life. There's a new book from Peter, I think it's Peter Thielsen. He's an early investor in Facebook and co-founder of PayPal. It's called From Zero to One, which is a book on startups. Ever since I moved to the US, I sort of have gotten into American football. I was just watching it on Sunday afternoon. It's kind of a nice lazy activity after a very active week or travel. I kind of like to sit down on the couch and watch football for an hour or a couple hours. I don't usually watch the entire game. I record it and then I'll sort of fly through it and I watch the end. So I'm kind of really interested in, I guess, scaling. So both from a technical point of view, my PhD research was about scaling software to Java virtual machine and Java applications. To a lot of the work I did in Drupal was also around scalability of Drupal. Even in business, how do we scale the Drupal association? How do we grow that organization? Or how do we scale Acquia? And so I feel like maybe that's a bit of a theme. And I'm interested both on about the technology, but also on the business side and the people side. And I think that excites me. It excites me to think about what we could be, and then trying to figure out if this is what we want to be, how do we actually get there?